Join me as we talk about how many exports the United States really had in the early 1900s and what happened to all that progress that we had. The war machine and the Ripple lawsuit. XRP is about to go skyrocketing. Stick around. You just might learn something. Welcome to the Eric T Conversation. I'm Eric T. So the new inflation numbers came out, and guess what? Inflation is down. Gas prices are down, and even freaking eggs are down. Yes, all the people complaining about egg prices are now down. So here's the thing. All of this stuff has to hurt for a little while. It just does. And I've said this before in other shows. You got to rip off the Band-Aid. And if you're not getting your head wrapped around that, and you're still complaining about Elon Musk and his merry men of geniuses going out there finding fraud and not really agreeing with it, then there's nothing we can say or the news can say or a Senate subcommittee can tell you that will make you believe it. You're just not going to believe it, and that's fine. There are people that just aren't going to believe anything, and that's okay. But for the most part, America needs to get back to the power that it was. So in the early 1900s, America was the number one exporter of products. Number one. We had all the manufacturing. We were doing all the things to kind of make the world go round. And after about World War II, that all just stopped. You know why? Because war was big business. And a lot of the people that are running the show wanted to keep wars going. Why? Just like everything else you have. So if you have a barbershop, you need all those seats filled in a barbershop, right? Because if you don't have those seats in the barbershop filled up, your barbershop's probably not doing really well. If you are a car rental place, you don't want to have any cars to rent. You want all the car rentals to be empty because that's your business model. You want cars rented. Hotels, they want 95%, I believe, occupation of a hotel because that's how you make money. So the military-industrial complex got really smart after about World War II. And if you build bullets, weapons, airplanes, tanks, uniforms, helmets, all that other stuff, you got to keep that money flowing. So how do you keep that flowing? You don't keep it flowing in peacetime. You keep it flowing during a conflict. And that's what they are doing. And our country needs to kind of get away from that because we started developing everything in this country. Our country is responsible for the cars, the electric light bulb. We had Apple, Facebook. The list goes on and on. What things that you use in your everyday life come from the United States. Almost 80% of the things that people use throughout the world were developed right here in the United States. You know why in the 1900s our country was flourishing with manufacturing and all that stuff? Because we didn't have the regulation that they have now. We didn't have the taxes that they have now. And as the military-industrial complex needs to get fueled, right? You need gasoline to move that tank. You need fire, coal to burn to run that locomotive, right? That's what they figured out by taxes. So they figured out they're just going to tax the public and the American people to get what they needed. And we're done with that. And that's what Trump's doing. And for the people that just can't see that, I feel sorry for you. And you're never going to find what you need to find. And you're never going to get the answers that you need to get to figure out that you are being played 100%. Because we exported a lot more than we imported in the early 1900s. But what happened was all these regulations started coming in because people started figuring out that, wow, all the stuff getting manufactured, we got to get a piece of the pie, right? Everybody needed to get a little piece of that action. So they started taxing industry. They started putting regulations, stringencies on them to keep them from performing and doing the things that needed to do to make all these products, clothing, shoes, whatever. And that's what happened. They put the squeeze on the American industry. They bottlenecked it. So it slowed it all down. So what happened was, with all the regulations started coming into play, These companies that develop all these great products for the United States in a free society, because you can only really do these wonderful things in a free society. You think someone could have created Facebook in the Soviet Union or in China and make it for the world? No. Even the guy that created TikTok, Jen, whatever his name is, worked at Facebook before he decided to develop the TikTok platform. So it all comes from somewhere. Welcome to the Eric T Conversation. I'm Eric T. So our country has been taken over by people who aren't voted into office. It's very clear. And it's sad that over the last 80 years, we have gone from a superpower developing all these products and shipping them out to all four corners of the globe to now where we are at. And people are having a hard time dealing with President Trump and what he's trying to accomplish. And it's working. It is absolutely working. Yes, we have an exorbitant amount of taxes. Remember, they're reciprocal taxes. So he is not taxing and tariffing other countries in an exorbitant amount. He is doing it reciprocal. So if you're taxing us with tariffs at an 80% or 120%, we're doing the same thing to you at 80 or 120%. That's fair trade, in my opinion. And eventually, these countries are going to fold because the United States is the number one importer by about $2-something trillion a year of products. That's right. Most of our products we get are from China, but we get things from other countries as well. But we're number one with that. So if you're out there worrying about, oh my gosh, it's going to bankrupt the country, everything's going to be horrible. No, it's not. No, it's not. Because when we're starting to tariff all these other countries to the tune of 100%, 200%, 250%, they're going to cave. They have no choice because they can't afford to supply us with the products that we purchased from them. And you know what it's going to do also? It's going to bring industry back to the United States. That's right. Taiwan. They're already bringing their microchips back to the United States and start creating the microchips here in the United States. And Honda is going to create a plant, believe in Indiana, for their Honda Civic EVs. And the list goes on and on. Apple is coming over here. You know why? Because they don't want to pay the tariffs. And that's what has to happen. You have to get tough with some of these things right now because we've been taken advantage of for a very long time. And it's time to move on from that. And that's why Donald Trump is there. Look, you can say, oh, Donald Trump had 6 bankruptcies. You know what? Bankruptcy is there for a reason. And a lot of businesses declare bankruptcy. And there's different types of bankruptcies. There's Chapter 7, there's Chapter 11, Chapter 13. And they're all different, right? One's for like restructuring your debt or something like that. So everybody just says, oh, Trump had 6 bankruptcies. You don't even know what bankruptcy is, nor do you know what happens when you do bankruptcy. So don't come at us that are telling you about Donald Trump and talking about his bankruptcies. Because as a business owner, it is a tool to help your business to get out of the exorbitant debt that you are in. People do it all of the time. But you know what? The dude's still worth billions of dollars. I tell you something, he knows what he's doing. So I believe that he's going to put us on the right path. It's going to be hard for a little while to deal with, oh my gosh, we got all these tariffs. You got the news talking bad things every single day. That's their job. They don't get views unless they're talking shit about Donald Trump. Do you think if CNN was talking, oh, Donald Trump is so awesome, he's doing these great things, oh, Don Jr. is helping out too, oh, yada, yada, J.D. Vance has done this great things. Do you really think CNN would have any viewers? No. They barely have any viewers now. But they would have nobody if they were just saying great stuff about Donald Trump that he's actually doing. That's what they do. It's all about commercial dollars. So if you are getting all of your information from legacy media, CNN, MSNBC, CBS, even some of Fox News, if that's where you're getting all your information from, you got to open some books. You got to open doing some reading, get some literature. And I tell everybody on here, don't believe what I say. Do some freaking research, man. Because if you're not doing your own research, you will be blinded by the propaganda that you are absorbing. And I get it. There's about 25%, in my opinion, of people that just believe everything they see on these newscasts. There are. And you're not going to be able to sway them one way or the other. And it's sad I deal with it all the time on these platforms. People are bashing me, calling me all kinds of names. I mean, it's laughable. Just because I have an opinion on something, people attack you on it. And that's sad because for the most part, we're all Americans. We should all want the best for our country. So it's hard for me to believe that all this fraud and waste that Doge is finding, that some of these people are freaking out about it. And they're saying, oh, we're stealing money. But you're not in an uproar about our government spending and wasting all these tax dollars you're paying to fund our government, and it's going out to other places. I don't know. And those people, you're just never going to help. You're never going to get through to them. And that's okay. So Trump calls it the golden era, right? The golden age of his presidency and what's going to happen. And I'm going to tell you why he's doing that. So the United States experienced a period of significant economic growth and industrialization in the early 1900s, often referred to as the Gilded Age, fueled by technological advancements, urbanization, and immigration. Here's a little more detail on that. Industrialization and growth. The period saw the rise of major industries like steel, oil, and railroads, leading to a boom in the manufacturing and urbanization. In other words, it led to a boom in cities getting developed. I don't know if you've ever watched any of those old series from the late 1800s after the Civil War and the railroads being developed. And we had a lot of Chinese immigrants that came in. The Chinese built the railroad. Just so we're clear. Chinese built the railroads because they were bringing them in here to lay all those tracks, thousands of miles of tracks. And the Chinese actually did that. So what happened was when you started laying all these tracks and these with trains, you were able to develop certain cities. So if you had a stop in, let's say, New York, okay, they had a stop in New York. That's how the industry got built. And that's why the urban areas, like cities, were created. It's amazing. So you had rural areas that people lived in. There was nothing there. Farming, horses, cattle, like the Wild Wild West. So once you started having some urbanization develop, people started moving into the cities, right? We call urbanization, we call them cities now. So like New York, Chicago, places like that started to boom during this early 1900 period. And we also, believe it or not, we had an influx of immigrants. Like I told you, the Chinese were here. But we had an influx of immigrants that were coming in legally, coming through Ellis Island for the most part. So yes, we had an influx of immigrants coming here, and hopefully they came in legally, right, through Ellis Island. What happened was industry grew so fast, it did create a huge wealth gap between the super, super rich and the poor. There really was no middle class during that time. So over the next 15 to 20 years, some of that started to shrink a little bit, and we started to develop a little bit of a middle class. Then we moved into the roaring 20s where the economy was really booming. We saw a lot of women starting to get their rights to vote and things like that. We did have prohibition during that time, but the economic boom during the 20s was phenomenal. And our country was still creating all these type of products that were being sent off to other countries. And what happened? It's sad that over the last 80 to 100 years, our country has lost sight of that. And that's what President Trump is trying to bring back to our country. You have to understand, you shouldn't be so concerned whether a country likes us or not. You shouldn't. You should be concerned whether that country respects us or not, because that's what really makes the world go round. If they don't respect the United States, and I believe these countries around the world haven't respected the United States probably since Ronald Reagan. Now, Ronald Reagan has his flaws too, but for the most part, countries respected us when you have a really strong leader in there. And I get it. Some of you won't understand what that's about. It's true. You have to have a strong leader at the head. If you have a weak leader like we had in Biden, in Obama, even a little bit to the point of Bush, this is what happens to your society. It kind of gets overrun and takes advantage of. And we don't want anybody taking advantage of us anymore. So over the next 6 to 8 months, it's going to be a little bit of a rocky road for you. And if you don't have the stomach for it, I suggest you stop watching the news and put on some Netflix and put on a movie that you can watch that'll entertain you during these times. But things are going to change for the better. And in the next 6 to 8 months, you're going to start realizing that things are moving in the correct direction for our country. And that's all we can ask for, things to move in the right direction. So we shall see. So the whole XRP thing right now is in the news. because I guess Eleanor Torrent, who writes for Fox News, and she's really big in the crypto community as a reporter, came out and said that what's going on with the XRP lawsuit is that they're trying to come up with some negotiation tools to figure out the actual penalties for it. So the other administration was heavily suing all of these cryptocurrencies companies and coins. And the big one was Ripple. Okay. It was the big one that Hinman, the former head of the SEC, came out there and sued him on his last day at the job. And there's a lot of speculation why that happened. I won't get into it right here, but it's a shit show. It really is. The lawsuit was kind of fabricated out of thin air. And that's my opinion. I've read all the documents that are about it. And from what I can see, it really had no merit. They wanted to slow down the technology. And they did it in a drastic way. Because at the time when the lawsuit came out, XRP was the number 2 cryptocurrency in the market. And then poof, just like that, it was taken off different exchanges and it tanked. I wonder why. Because it can settle transactions in 3 to 5 seconds and cost 0.00 whatever 002 cents per transaction. It's extremely cheap and has low fees, so it's very green to send it. Bitcoin has massive gas fees to send it over because it uses so much electricity to create a Bitcoin. So it's not very energy efficient. XRP has all the qualities of a perfect cryptocurrency, but yet they got sued just because of Ripple. Now, Ripple offered the cryptocurrency to a private seller. They didn't use that money to fund their corporation, so it wasn't an offering. So it wasn't a security. So that's all the rigmarole. So right now they're trying to figure out through the new SEC, okay, what's going on here? Do we need to go after this? Are we going to do some kind of settlement? Because the original SEC from about 9 months ago under the Biden administration and under Gary Gensler, they first came out with a settlement of like $2 billion. And Ripple's like, no, I don't think so. They appealed it. They gave them $125 million. And since the end of the election, they're trying to figure out what they're going to do with that. So is Ripple going to pay $125 million in fines? Is the case just going to be dropped? Are there going to be no penalties? Is Ripple going to use some of that money for the strategic crypto reserve that they're going to be using for it? And by the way, they're going to be using XRP for something because it's the best cryptocurrency out there. And people forget, it has on-demand liquidity. Ripple has a patent on on-demand liquidity, ODL. In other words, you can move one piece of money from one side and move it to the other side, and it can reconcile to whatever that currency is instantaneously on the other end. That's on-demand liquidity. And Ripple has a patent on the technology. And that's the biggest piece of the picture people are forgetting about. You can talk about all the cryptocurrencies and XLM and XDC and Stellar and Algorand and all these other cryptocurrencies, but the meat and potato is ODL. So ODL needs XRP to do that. So you could send whatever cryptocurrency here in A, send it over here to Z, but in the middle, you got to use XRP for that, all the other letters. So we shall see over the next couple of weeks what's going to happen with that. And I'm telling you, when the XRP lawsuit is finished and finalized, and it's the last one that's probably going to go to it, the market is going to move on that information because everybody who's looking at cryptocurrencies, they're eyeing the entire market. They know about the Ripple lawsuit. And as soon as they figure out, yes, XRP is good to go, you can use it, banks are going to jump on it. And they're already on it right now. There's a lot, there's like, 7,000 NDAs, non-disclosure agreements that Ripple has. And we know that information by the lawsuit. You go to the documents on the lawsuit and you can see how many NDAs they have. So they have people that are like sworn to secrecy that can't talk about this technology for a reason. So if you're in cryptocurrencies, hang in there. Things are going to get better, like I said on my last cast, and just keep watching the market. Only invest what you can afford to lose, and don't go too nuts with the fluctuation of it. It's going to go up and down all the time until these regulations come around, and hopefully way before August that they come out, and hopefully the market starts to stabilize a little bit, and you can make different types of investments into these cryptocurrencies. Anyway, that's it for today. Join me next time for a little chit-chat, some observations, and some good old-fashioned conversation. Thanks.